adopted by the Canyon Lake City Council at a special meeting on August 25th, 2022. I'm going to call each one of you individually up, and then we'll do the oath of office. We'll start with Councilmember Casey Castillo. Congratulations. All right, and so swearing in Councilmember Castillo is going to be her dad, Jeff Dubois.
Use this one, huh? That's fine. Ready?
Yes.
Gonna be good?
Yes.
Okay. I, Casey Castillo,
I, Casey Castillo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and I will fairly discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and I will well and fairly discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
You're in.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Councilmember Jennifer Dane. And giving the ceremonial oath of office to Councilmember Jennifer Dane will be her niece, Kristen Sparhawk.
Yay.
Right here. I, Jennifer Dane,
I, Jennifer Dane,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take the obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Glad that's over.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, can I ask Mayor Smith to join me up here?
Yeah, Jeremy.
And giving the ceremonial oath of office to Mayor Jeremy Smith will be his wife, Alyssa Smith.
You ready? You and me. All right, here we go. Sleepless nights. Got this.
I, Jeremy Smith,
I, Jeremy Smith,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will
Support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and
California
the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and
I
allegiance
will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United
to
States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I will take this obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose
purpose of
of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Good job. Very nice. Thank you so much. All right, Mayor, if you'd like to take a pause for some pictures, I think it'd be a good time to do so.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We're going to do a 5-minute recess. The time is 6:39.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What pictures are we taking?
Then us.
Oh.
The whole thing.
Yes.
Ready to rock and roll? We're ready to govern?
Yes.
All right. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:45. I think at this, I just hand it over to our Madam Clerk. No longer in charge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so now we're moving on to the city council reorganization. This is the time to select a mayor and mayor pro tem for the upcoming year. So at this time, we'll need a motion and a second for appointment to the mayor's seat. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I would.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion for Jeremy Smith to continue as mayor.
Second.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
I'm honored. Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the mayor pro tem seat. We'll now entertain a motion and a second for the mayor pro tem seat. Do I have a motion?
I do.
Okay.
For Councilmember Welty to be our mayor pro tem.
I'll second it.
All right, Councilmember, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Excuse me, Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried to have Dale Welty as the mayor pro tem.
Hey, good job.
Congratulations to Mayor Smith and Mayor Pro Tem Welty. Would the council like to say a few words? I think we have our recently elected and our newly appointed Mayor Pro Tem, so I think if you guys would like to say a few words, this would be a great time to do so.
Ladies, would you like to say anything? Congratulations.
Sure. I just want to say thank you. I'm very honored to continue to serve Canyon Lake. The last 4 years were amazing and a lot of good hard work, and I'm encouraged to maintain the momentum and continue to do great things for our city. And I just want to say that I think the choice of mayor, having you in charge at the helm again, is an excellent choice. You have been a good leader for us, a strong leader for us, and I think that moving forward, that's exactly what we continue to strive for. And I also want to say that I think Mayor Pro Tem Dale, you're going to do great, and I'm super excited to see what the year brings.
A lot of what Councilmember Castillo said is, I have the same sentiments, but I appreciate the opportunity to serve on this council again with all of you. I think we've had a good year. It's been an exciting year, and I'm looking forward to what's going to come in the new year. And I think very excited to have our mayor continue for another year.
Thank you.
And keep the progress that we've made. And looking forward to working with Councilmember Welty as our mayor pro tem.
Thank you. For me, I made a mistake tonight. Before accepting mayor, I forgot to ask my wife if that was okay. You know, for us, our family, the city means everything to us, so I wasn't expecting to be mayor again this year. In fact, I think I might have called Casey and said, hey, will you do it? And she said, absolutely not. I'm going to see if you want to do it. So I'm just so humbled. I really am. I'm humbled by my colleagues. I think the direction that we're headed is an exciting direction, and we're going to be doing a lot of great things together, and we already have. As far as the election's concerned, for me, it's really exciting because this is technically Councilwoman Jennifer Dane's election. She got elected. She was appointed before, and this time the people decided to elect her, and that's extremely exciting. I'm glad to be a part of that, and I'm excited to serve for the next 4 years. I think we still have so much good things to do, and let's see where we're headed. So, any other comments?
I'd like to comment. I'd just like to say it's a great honor to be able to be Mayor Pro Tem. I'm very happy that I had the support of the council to do this, and I'm really great that we have Mayor Smith back. And, I saw him at the State of the City, and he did a great job just saying how great everybody was, but what he didn't say anything about was, how we all think he's just doing an incredible job. So just to let everybody know, as much as he supports us, I believe, at least speaking for me, and I'm sure for the rest of the councils, we really are thrilled to have Jeremy as the mayor.
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, congratulations to Councilmember Castillo and Councilmember Dane. Just honored to serve along with you. Mayor Jeremy Smith, you're a leader, and I look forward to you leading this council for the next year, and I think we made the perfect choice. And Mayor Pro Tem Welty, I've gotten to know you over the last couple weeks. I'll tell you one thing, he loves this city. There's a lot of passion for our city, has a lot of passion for the residents, and congratulations, buddy.
All right, we're moving right along. Ceremonial matters, this is fun. This is what we love to do. And I believe it was Casey that brought Citizen of the Month to us, and we do this day in and day out. So we're going to be honoring Citizen of the Month and Student of the Month. But first, I'm going to have the chief come up, and he's going to help me present our Citizen of the Month. And he's got a story to tell and a certificate to present. So I'm going to let him do his thing first.
Thank you. First, if I could, congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem and council members on your reelection. If I could be able to ask our two people that are here tonight, Ryan Clark and Gary Hewitt, to come forward as I kind of give the rationale or the reason why they're being recognized and honored tonight. Stand up with the mayor, please. So this isn't new for Mr. Clark. Clark has been awarded one or two of these before. Recently, both of these individuals were honored and recognized by the POA. Mr. Clark's received one by the president, so I don't think we can top that tonight, but we'll try. He's a police officer with the Los Angeles Police Department. Gary Hewitt is a nurse, and her husband, who couldn't be here tonight because he is working, is a firefighter with the Monrovia Fire Department. And if you were here last month or watched us, the council meeting, you will know that we had a significant structure fire on Halloween, October 31st. And both of these individuals were out driving about town at about 12:50 in the afternoon. Mr. Clark was coming down Canyon Lake Drive North. The Hewitts were in their truck over off of Point Marina. All about the same time, Mr. Clark passes a sheriff's deputy and just kind of makes note. There's a sheriff's deputy parked on the side of the road. The Clarks look up and, being a firefighter, Harvey Hewitt says, "Oh, look, smoke, I better go see where it's coming from." So they kind of follow it around, and they meet about the same time in front of a house on Canyon Lake Drive North that's on fire. So Mr. Clark exits his vehicle, starts running across the street as the Hewitts are kind of parking in front, yells at Harvey to go and track down the sheriff, tell him to come back, that we've got a fire. Jerry gets out and runs up to the front door with Ryan. She gets on her cell phone and she starts calling 911. Mr. Clark, being a police officer, is about ready to enter a building, doors closed, and it's like, "Whoa, time out. Would you be my witness while I kick in this door?" As he turns to Jerry, because that's what he's trained to do. So he makes entry into the building. He's immediately hit with the heat, the smoke, black, pungent, arctic smoke, and calls out and tries to see if there's anybody inside. There's no answer. All he hears is a smoke alarm going off. So he decides he's going to make entry like any good police officer does. And he quickly finds that there is a hallway down to the right. So he goes in, he turns down to the right, and he sees a figure kind of standing in the hallway, leaning against the wall, not making any forward progress, just kind of stuck there, staged there. At about this time, Harvey is back with the sheriff's deputy out front. He runs up to the front of the building. Jerry's on the phone giving detailed information to the 911 operator. Mr. Clark goes in, helps the victim outside the structure, and hands her off to Gary, the nurse. About this time, thinking that he needs to do more, Mr. Clark sees that there's a garden hose on the ground. So he picks up the garden hose, Gary turns on the water for him, and he goes back inside, And instead of turning right down the hallway, he goes straight and he sees fire in the area of what looks to be a kitchen. And knowing Canyon Lake like he does, it's like, holy cow, everything's electrical. Yells back out to Gary, hey, turn off the electricity. And like a trooper, she turns off the electricity. Harvey runs up now, he's at the front door, he's yelling at Ryan, hey, get out, you've done everything you can, it's time. And so he exits the building, and Jerry takes the victim, who was fairly critical, over and starts rendering care with the little bit of equipment that she has, but a whole lot of training and comfort. Harvey helps Ryan, who came out hacking and coughing, his face was full of soot, and that's the way we found him when we arrived on scene a couple minutes later. So in all my years of experience, I can tell you without question that they made a difference and they saved a life, and we thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Chief. Absolutely amazing. I think, without a doubt, that describes exactly what it is to be a Canyon Laker here in Canyon Lake. Without it, I mean, you guys saw a situation, you jumped all over it together, and I know for us, when we heard this story, we were so proud of both of you and the hard work that was done there. Thank you, Chief, for that. Will the council please come up here and join me as we take a picture with these amazing people that made this happen for us?
We were just trying to figure out what she was giving out for Halloween. That's it.
It was, that's
If it was
right.
Snickers or if it was like some junk candy. Chief. Chief was in a bar.
Perfect, thank you.
If you still have two more, wait, we're here. You are now official Canyon Lake Junior Firefighter.
That's what I'm talking about. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate you. All right, staying on. Next, we're going to do Student of the Month. And I'm going to let my colleague present this because you were there, you witnessed it, and I think Jen's a little offended because she usually handles our Student of the Month now, but you loved it. Share your experience and say some good things.
Yeah, I had the privilege of filling in for Councilmember Dane at the Lake Elsinore Unified School District Student of the Month. And we had a outstanding young man by the name of Thomas Soroki. Could you please come on up? Let me tell you a little bit about Thomas. He's a proud student athlete at Temescal Canyon High School. He has a GPA of 3.8. He's been a member of the Engineering Academy all 4 years at Temescal Canyon, which, by the way, not all schools have. Is that correct?
Yeah.
He is the captain of the varsity boys basketball team and the captain of the varsity boys volleyball team. During his freshman year, Thomas was on the Titan TV crew and a leadership program at TCHS. He has also volunteered to help with freshman orientation with the youth summer ministry at Canyon Lake Community Church, where he has attended the youth group since 6th grade. Thomas has applied at several Cal State universities and hopes to major in mechanical engineering or manufacturing engineering. Is that correct? At some point, he would also like to be a coach for a high school basketball team. If I can tell you firsthand, you may want to put some second thought to that, but comes with a little bit of baggage. My impression of Thomas is he has great enthusiasm and he puts great effort at everything he does. And we also have to recognize his mother, his father, and I take it this is your sister, correct? I don't think she was there that day. But you just are an amazing family. And you are a product of an amazing family. And I was very, very proud to be there. As I mentioned, Jennifer Dane let me know that it was a temporary deal and I'm not going back the next month. And it truly was an honor not only to witness your experiences and your speech, both on behalf of you and your mother and your father, but also all the students that were there today. And it was mentioned at the ceremony, and I will mention it here today. I want you to go off. I want you to do great things, get all that great education, and then you bring it back here to Canyon Lake, okay?
Good job.
Congratulations.
So before you sit down, we have a couple questions for you, but I'm going to let our Madam Clerk describe a program that you might be interested in.
Yes, so the council actually put together this Canyon Lake Scholarship Program, which we do every year in March, and it's an essay contest. And so I encourage you to apply and to submit your essay and your resume, and it's free money that will go towards college. And I think you'll do great. And it was an honor attending the Student of the Month with Councilmember Terry. And like he said, your family is amazing, you're amazing, you're doing great things, and we're super proud of you.
Thank you.
The good news, Thomas, is the essay is only 1 million words. For you, you'll knock it out extremely quick. So what's the plans for you? What's the next chapter?
Well, I'm just focusing on getting through finals week currently, right now, and then finishing basketball season, then volleyball, and then hopefully applying, or I already applied, hopefully attending either one of the Cal Polys, particularly San Luis Obispo, because that's where my sister goes.
Nice.
Or San Diego State or Long Beach State. Those are my 4 schools. And then I just want to, become an engineer, do that for a bit, and then come back and coach. That's really what I want to do in my future, and be a teacher. So that's it.
I love it. We're proud of you. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. Good job.
Good job.
You nailed it. You can drop the mic. All right, moving on to community reports. I believe Director Burke is out of town, right? So we don't have anyone giving a report on that? Okay. I know our president, Renee Griffiths, is here, Canyon Lake Property Owners Association. Yep, it is yours. Why is it over there?
For the photos.
Oh, okay, let's see. There we go. It has wheels, so.
Yeah, I'll just move it. I know you guys have a full calendar, so I'm going to keep it very short. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry
Congratulations to Casey Castillo, Jennifer Dane, Mayor Jeremy Smith. Congratulations to Dale. And I just feel bad not congratulating you, so for the heck of it, again, Terry, congratulations. Great job on the Winter Wonderland. And I'm already thinking of next year. I'm excited about next year. I'm already thinking of Fiesta Day and 4th of July. I look forward to working with the City Council and our continued partnership and friendship. And again, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, Chamber of Commerce. I believe Joseph, is he in the house? He is. No?
You can call me Joseph if you like.
No, okay, so Joseph's not.
I was under the impression Joseph was going to attend, but this
Oh,
is John Grande?
No, I know John. I know John very well.
Hi, everyone. Yes.
John, thank you for coming in.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, and it's my honor to be addressing this body for the first time as chamber president.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We still we do have our executive board sworn in for 2023, and we're also in the process of filling in our director spots as well as our ambassador slots as well. We have a great year coming up. We're going to make some announcements soon as far as some great chamber events that are coming here. In addition, I'd also like to, for the first time, announce our business of the month, which is Caldwell Banker. So I don't know if anyone from Caldwell Banker is here, but congratulations.
I love it.
Great. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. All right, public safety. What do we have for the sheriff? Oh, look at the captain's in the house. Whoa.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, congratulations to each of you. Looking forward to working with you over the next year. I'm glad to be back in Canyon Lake. It's been a couple months. I've been making the tour around my different cities and all the different.
I have to say, Captain,
MAC
you're
meetings.
here instead of Wildemar, so that means a
That is
lot
true.
to us.
That
You
is
know, you're
true.
gonna have to call Bembanoy. It's his last council meeting,
Yeah.
but we appreciate you.
Yeah, and they're doing a Lieutenant's doing a big report there today, so.
Good, perfect.
Like, you got it covered. I'm going back to Canyon Lake.
I love it.
Feel comfortable here.
Yep.
So, anyway, I have your December report covering the month of November. Deputies responded to 356 calls for service. That's an increase from 22 calls in October, which was 334. We only had 3 Part 1 crimes in the city this month. We had 1 aggravated assault, 1 theft, and 1 motor vehicle theft. We had 5 traffic citations written by deputies. We had 2 traffic accidents that were investigated by deputies. Overall, there were 6 arrests made in the city. We had 2 for DUI, 1 for drugs possession, 2 for outstanding warrants, and 1 for being drunk in public. And that is down right about 50% from the prior month. Looking at response times, 7 minutes, 75 seconds for priority 1 calls. That's up slightly from October and slightly up from September. Priority 2 calls is 13 minutes, 64 seconds, which was split in about half. So a little bit higher on the priority 1s, a little bit lower on the priority 2s. But nothing else to report.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Any questions? Are we good? Can't thank you enough for being
right.
here.
No.
Appreciate
Glad
you.
to be here.
Merry
Congrats.
Christmas.
Me too.
All right. Moving on. Code enforcement.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
For the month of November, we have 1 unpermitted construction notice violation was issued. 11 notice of violations were issued for MPDS violations for lack of BMPs. 1 unmaintained green pool, 1 vehicle parked overnight for sale here at the town center. We issued 6 citations. This includes prohibited vehicles and hunters out on BLM. And then down to short-term rentals, 1 short-term rental was found, and we did issue a notice of violation, and we are currently monitoring that one. Residential rental registrations, we have 349 registrations, 147 renewed, 172 pending renewals, 12 inspections have been conducted, and 44 still have not complied. And that is all I have.
Perfect. Any questions? Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Fire Chief, you're up.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, city staff. Jeff Latenders, your fire chief, and I'm here to give our overview for the month of November. I'm going to try to give our overview for the month of November. Okay, for the month of November, our call volume dropped down a little bit. We went from 99 in October to 85 incidents in the month of November. Those incidents were broken down into 1 structure fire, 61 medical aids, 2 hazardous conditions, 10 service calls, 8 good intents calls, and 3 false alarms for the total of 85. Our fire response, the 1 fire response we had was on November 26th, and while that's not a picture of our fire, it has been cold, and I did have frost on my windshield this morning. It was a chimney fire, and so I'd like to kind of use this moment to remind everybody that it's cold. If you have wood-burning fireplaces, it needs service, and you should get your fireplace and your chimney professionally cleaned on a regular basis, because the cause of this fire was a buildup of soot or creosote inside the fireplace. So a little safety tip as we're here. Our incidents by time of day for the month of November have remained static throughout the year. We are slow in the early morning. In the middle of the afternoon, we pick up into the late evening, and then we kind of drop off during the night hours. And so that remains consistent. This is where our incidents occurred. Again, they're pretty populated throughout the entire community, but it's good for us to know from a planning perspective where our calls are occurring. As we talk about our response time, we can't control our response time. So driving from where we're at to where we're going is something that it's just a given. Our response times for the month of November have improved, If you remember back in September when I stood before you and I said we had some concerns and we were going to be dealing with it, we've been meeting with our captains on a weekly basis and providing them updates of how they've been performing. And so since September, we've gone from 1 minute 24 seconds to 1 minute and 5 seconds for our average of our turnout time. So we've really improved that. For our travel time, it's gone to 5 minutes and 8 seconds for the month, and our overall response time is 6 minutes and 13 seconds. But for us, what we really like to look at is what we call our 90th percent fractile response time. And so again, from September, we've dropped 31 seconds in our response time, in our turnout time from this month, and we've dropped it from 156 to 143 from last month. So again, we're meeting, we're coaching, we're mentoring, and we're just really telling the guys how important it is to get to that fire engine and get responding, because it's the one component out of these 3 numbers that we have any control over. Our travel time was 7 minutes 5 seconds for an overall total response time of 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Automatic and mutual aid given during the month of November, a total of 8 incidents occurred outside the city that we responded to. There were 7 in the Lake Elsinore area code, 1 in the Menifee area, and none in Paris. Canyon Lake engines thus far this year have responded to a total of 120 incidents outside the city, 99 in Lake Elsinore, 15 in Menifee, and 6 in Paris. This is a hot heat map of where we're responding to, and this heat map shows year-to-date. So you can kind of see in that Meadowbrook area is a area that we go into a lot, and Canyon Hills is an area that we go into a lot as well. Automatic mutual aid received during the month of November. CAL FIRE came in only 4 times this month. So for the entire year, CAL FIRE has assisted us 123 times this year. Year-to-date, if we look at how many times we've assisted them, which was 120, it's a fairly equitable system that we're sharing with them. It's almost dead even. So I think the program is working between the 2 agencies. And again, this is just another heat map of where they're coming in to assist us on emergency incidents. And you can kind of see from this picture, it's really all over the city. When our 1 engine is committed and we get that second incident, or when there's a time when we need multiple incidents on scene, they're helping us out wherever they need to into the city. So we're grateful for that. During November, our training hours continued to improve. The A shift had 34 hours for a total of 903. The B shift had 30 hours for a total of 544. And the C shift had 30 hours for a total of 824. Again, this is a metrics that when we do an ISO report, it's going to be something they look at, is what kind of training are we doing and how many hours of training are we accomplishing. This month we focused on fire officer training. We hired a new employee there, that's Nathan Smith, a new firefighter paramedic. So we put him through a 80-hour, 2-week intense training course where we went over everything that he learned in the fire academy and taught him the way that we do it here in Canyon Lakes. We went over tactics and strategy, and we attended on a regional basis an MCI drill at March Air Reserve Base. And so that's in preparation for our partnership that we will be doing with March in April, I believe, for their air show. And so we will be sending an engine to assist them as coverage when they have that large population there for the air show. Fire prevention, we didn't issue any permits. We did 1 site plan review. We did 2 sprinkler plan reviews. We did 2 construction inspections, 4 special permit applications, 2 special event inspections, 6 mandated inspections, and we'll talk about those a little bit later on an agendized item. And then we continue to work our new inspection program. We anticipate that starting in January, the fire department will take over the business inspection program from code enforcement. And so it will all be iPad-based and working off of the cloud. And it's going to be a lot more, I hope, effective and efficient than what we're doing. And again, we've been working on the fee schedule that you'll see later on tonight as well. For public education, we were out there for the Veterans Day celebration. We were there for Winter Wonderland, the tree lighting ceremony at the POA. We had several station tours. The fire station lighting, if you've driven by the fire station, you see the lighting, that's courtesy of the Mermaids. They donated all that lighting for us, so we are grateful and appreciative of them. And then just our normal interaction with the community. And so that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Awesome job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, public comments. Madam Clerk? Thank you.
Any person wishing to address the city council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the city, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is asked to complete a speaker request form available on the back counter. The completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk prior to an individual being heard by the city council. The city council has adopted a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you're commenting on the agenda item, your comments will be heard at the time that particular item is scheduled on the agenda. Please note that if you're addressing the city council on items not on the agenda, the Brown Act does not allow discussion of such items. Therefore, the city council may only do the following: refer the matter to staff, ask for additional information or request a report back, or give a very limited factual response. Members of the public may still submit their comment electronically by sending an email with their comment to publiccomment@canyonlakeca.gov. Comments submitted electronically will be provided to the city council and included in the official record, but will not be read aloud during this meeting. I have no cards.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, consent calendar. Will you please read the consent calendar statement?
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. With the concurrence of the city council, a council member may request that an item be removed for further discussion. Staff recommends approval of all items.
Council, would you like to pull any items? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, I do need a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. I need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Perfect. All right, moving on. Public hearing. For those of you following along, it's definitely not item 5, is it? This is the update fees, so we're already up to 5.
Yes.
All right, update fees, public hearing. Open and announce the time. It is 7:17. This is going to be a staff presentation. Terry, I got to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Your Honorable Mayor, City Council, City Staff, congratulations, Jeremy and Councilman Welty.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you for the next year until I retire. So back last fiscal year, due to the changes we had in City Hall, we decided we needed to do a fee study this fiscal year. And so we began working on this in July, and we did a RFP and hired Wildan, and they came out. I think it's been 4 years since our last fee, but a lot of things have changed, so it was time to do a new fee. So I'm going to let Tony kind of walk you through what he did, and this is Tony Thrasher from Wildan. All right. The whole staff is here for if you have any questions on any sections, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I am Tony Thrasher with Wildan Financial, project manager for user fees study, right? So I'm going to start off with just a little background, kind of exactly what we're looking at, kind of just a little bit of, really just exactly what we're covering as part of a fee study, right? So what are user fees? These are private benefit services being requested by someone looking for service from the city. The state law requirements are that they be voluntary and that the fees be set only up to the full cost of providing those services. So the fee study is looking to determine those full costs. Ultimately, is up to council to decide where fee levels want to be. You would want to set them, and so kind of our big purpose in this, and we'll get into it in the slides to come, is determining what that limit is, and then ultimately then where you would want to go on adoption. We are not including development impact fees, taxes, utility rates. So really, these are operational-based fees that we're including within the study itself. Now, why do you want to update your user fees? One, there's a state law requirement that you know what your cost of services are so that you can set your fees. Subsidies are, I've never worked with a city that does not have any subsidies within their services. It's unavoidable in many cases, but for most types of services, say building, engineering, and planning, those sorts of things that are related to development, you're usually looking for a full cost recovery on those sort of applications. And then, excuse me. and I have to keep looking this way, sorry, for when you're looking at kind of the impacts of if you're not charging full cost for your services, if you go for longer terms without getting that full cost, ultimately you're going to end up impacting your operations. You're not going to be able to fully fund your departments, and it impacts the services that are received by your citizens and development community, right? And the final bullet there is to note that part of just general planning for a city is knowing what your costs are so that you can then either recover the fees or decide where you would want to have some subsidies, right? So if there are more general benefit type services, then think of like parks and recreation, those sorts of things where you recognize that there might be some level of community benefit, then those are typically where you would see more subsidization, okay? So there's two primary objectives when you're doing a fee study. The first is, as I mentioned, to determine what the full cost of services are. So we review the fee schedules with all the departments. We go over what the processes are that they're providing based off of each service request, identify any potential new fees, update fee schedules, as we'll see in the case of fire, where they have a completely new schedule, right, and remove outdated fees. Using fully burdened hourly rates and program cost analysis, we determine the full cost of each service that you have listed in your fee schedule. Once we know what the full cost is, then we pivot towards suggested fee levels. This means different things for different cities. Sometimes there's established policy goals of where you want cost recovery to be. Sometimes there's simply limits on what kind of increases that you'd want to consider. But ultimately, what we bring forward is typically a suggested fee package based off of staff recommendation and our input for you to consider for either adoption or any kind of changes you might want to see based off of the agendized report that's there. Now, scope of the study, I mentioned it's a citywide fee study, but what we're more, say, exact is we're looking at finance administration, animal control fees, fire, building, planning, and engineering. Now, data. So since we're working with every department, we're looking at all the costs. There's a lot of data. It's a very data-intensive type process. Not only is it data-intensive, but it's staff-intensive at the same time. As much as we try to limit it, we can't get around needing a lot of staff input on what the processes are and how much time it takes for them to provide those services. So I want to thank staff for all the efforts they put in to get this turned around really quickly, and they put a lot into it. So expenditure data, staffing structures, central service overhead based off of how they're receiving support from the central functions of the city, productive billable hours where we lower the 2,080 total workable hours in a year to when they're actually on the job, so taking out holidays, vacations, that sort of thing. And in concordance with all that cost and fully burdened hourly rate calculation along with time estimates, we can determine the full cost of those services. So here's kind of an example of that, and I've said it a few different ways, but this is just to illustrate that, right? So if we take the salaries and benefits and layer and divide it by the productive hours and layer on direct and indirect overhead, so the operational costs as well as any support structures that are in place, that gives us our fully burdened hourly rate. Now, the individual steps of the study itself, we start off with collecting all the data to develop the model. So that we can calculate the overhead factors and those hourly rates, and then we meet with staff to go over the fee schedules, modify those and make those fit based off the way services are being provided, and then we collect time data for those so we can determine how much time it takes to provide the services so we can get to that full cost. Only then do we start talking about where you might want to set fees. So once we know what the costs are, we talk about fee suggestion strategies. Typically in the case of if we don't have parks and recreation type services included in this. And so a lot of the conversation is typically around cost recovery so that you can have a healthier general fund. Because anytime you're not charging for a service, that cost still exists, and so it impacts your general fund. So your unobligated dollars, that's where it ends up hitting, and it tends to limit what you can do for, say, community benefit or programming that you might want to do throughout the year. And so once we have those full costs in the model and the model's finalized, we develop a report, and then we come talk to you about that. So now I'll get into the individual departments. These are fee summaries. The report contains all the individual fee changes, but there's a lot of fees, and you can't really see it up on the screen, and so instead we summarize it here. So each slide will take on the same kind of format where we're describing how we did the analysis and that summary result of what's being recommended. And so start off with finance administration. It was a time-based analysis, so how much time does it take to provide the service, and what are the fully burdened hourly rates involved with those positions to get to a full cost. And the suggested fees would have an increase to 8, 6 fees would decrease. There are 3 new fees for the residential rental inspection And we also put in a code enforcement hourly rate as well, so that could be charged as needed. And 5 fees would remain as currently set. Now, for animal control, due to the nature of the animal control and how services are provided, and because you're in a partnership, right? We looked at what the cost recovery is based off of that partnership, the costs and the revenues that are brought in, and you're currently at 98% cost recovery. So there's no suggested changes to the current fees that you have on the schedule, but there is a recommendation to add one new fee, which would be a hobby breeder's license. And for fire, as has been mentioned, so they had a very limited set of fees in place, and they were basically at cost, where you'd have to track time and all that sort of thing. Instead, we implemented a new schedule through going through everything with your department, and it's 236 fees. And so kind of spreads that out. It's not necessarily they're doing a whole lot of new or different things. They are doing some new things, but it's really to more put a fine-tune and exact calculation on each of those services that are being provided, so that it provides a lot more transparency, and it can kind of ease the process of when they're coming in for applications, or when they need to see what they need to pay for whatever's kind of going on. Now, the suggestion is to go full cost on those, and so it's time based off the full and hourly rates. And then in addition to those, there's 2 fees that you did currently have, which are the EMS first responder fee and then the EMS annual subscription fee. Now, the cost analysis shows that the first responder fee would need a decrease of about 8.5%. And then for the annual subscription fee, the full cost would be a 25% increase on that, from around 192 to 254, somewhere around there. And so those are the full cost calculations on there, and that's what's being shown in the report. For building, there's a combination of 2 different types of calculations. Now, first is for the flat fees, there's a time-based analysis for those. And so for those, based off the cost, the suggested increase to get to full cost recovery would be 26 fees would go up, 59 fees would decrease, 7 new fees would be added, and 7 would remain as currently set. The other aspect is the building permit program. And so what we did for that one is to kind of simplify that process as well, is to do a calculation to determine a valuation-based fee schedule for those services. And so what that does is it looks at the historical valuation of all the permits that the department receives and the city receives, and determines what the cost recovery level needs to be for each of those on a per dollar scale. So as a project gets more complicated, think of building types. If you have a shell building versus, say, a medical facility, the cost of construction is much different. And so the higher cost of construction also means more review, inspection, and that sort of services. That's why valuation is still the most often used type of fee schedule, not just in California, but pretty much every state that I've worked in. And so based off the analysis of that, the multiplier is 0.02781. So for every dollar valuation, it's 2.8 cents in cost that goes along with that. Now for planning, they have deposit-based fees as well as flat fees. For the flat-based fees, we have the time-based analysis has an increase in 19 of those. 2 fees would decrease, 19 fees would remain as currently set. And so there's an average fee change of, I think it's 5%, but because of the deposit-based services, it's really, the revenue effect would be much different because they're basically charged at the cost of providing those services. For engineering, time-based analysis, an increase to 26 fees is being suggested. 7 fees would remain as currently set, and the same 5% average increase in fees is what came out of that. So that's all of the departments. Now, general, if a private benefit is being received by someone requesting a service, the general standard is to charge that full cost to them so that you're not having to impact your general fund for it. There's many different examples people bring up, me not paying for my neighbor's addition, right? Or if you want to do additional programming throughout the year or services that have general benefit, well, if you charge for the private benefit, then you have more for public benefit, right? But in many situations, there's subsidization. Because we're not including Parks and Rec or community-based fees, those sort of things, usually typically see a lot less subsidization within these sort of fees, but it's ultimately up to you all. We do recommend that the city include an annual inflator on services to keep up with costs, so you don't have these jumps, right, in years in which you don't do a fee schedule. And the typical standard, we say 3 to 5 years, but really most typically it's around 5 years when cities get around to updating these. Okay, I'm here to answer any questions you have as well as staff. Thank you for your time.
All right, questions to staff by council? We also get a segment in this to have discussion as well, so Casey and I had about 2 hours of conversation in our meeting on this, so. Any questions?
I have a couple questions. A couple to start off.
Real quick, if you don't mind. Mr. City Manager, how do you think it would be easiest for us to do this, in the discussion format or the question format, discussing individual fees, insight on it?
Well, I guess if there are kind of technical questions at this point, it'd be probably appropriate to direct those questions to our consultant at this time. And once all the questions are answered, then probably good to move on to discussion from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's keep it to just questions that they could particularly answer, not so much the rhetoric on whether we agree on a fee or if it should be adjusted or different type of service that we can provide. Does that make sense? So did I just squash everyone's ability to ask questions?
Go ahead. I'm looking at BL 25 and BL 26. It looks like the two lines with the different fees are the same statement. You have greater than 5'9" in height is one fee, and then you have greater than 5'9" in height is a different fee. Same with BL 26. You have greater than 3 feet is one fee, and then greater than 3 feet is another. I suspect that there's a greater and less in, maybe in there.
Possibly, there'll be a typo in there, right?
Yeah, and my comment is it seems odd that we would have what brought this to my attention is technical, that we'd have a fee for a wall less than 3 feet, that's retaining less than 3 feet. Historically, I haven't known that to be true. I don't know if maybe that's something for the building department, but is that something we inspect and?
So, if I may, you're correct in saying that in most cities we don't, there aren't requirements for walls that run 3 feet. First of all, congratulations, Mayor, council members. Good to see you guys again. Because the uniqueness of our community and the topographical challenges that we have, it's not uncommon for you to drive through the community and see somebody who built a 3-foot wall, and then they put concrete on it so they could park on it, and now the wall's failing.
So I have a surcharge then?
Yeah, because the surcharge that they add beyond what it was intended to do. And that's not uncommon here. It happens quite often here, actually. So when I first came on the job, we had a city standard that allowed anything under 3 feet, didn't require a permit, you could just build it. Because of the continued problems that I had with that, I did away with the city standard, and now if you have something that retains, anything that has a structural component, you need to design it to do what you're asking it to do.
So, okay, so I've want to do a planter and I want to get a couple of stacking bricks to hold my flowers. Does that need to be permitted?
Yeah, but it's real simple. It's a simple thing. I mean, and again, if most people, if they come in, they just say it's for a flower bed or something.
Yeah.
I'll say, yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Okay, so if it's, okay, so we're not going in and saying, oh, you got an 8-inch wall that you're
No.
putting your flower bed in, we want some money.
These are the ones who are just putting up, they say just a little wall just to put a flower bed, and then 3 months later, they pour concrete over it and they want to park their cars on it.
Oh, I totally get that. I get that as an issue, yeah.
So that's what we're trying to discourage.
And I
So-
see that happening here because we have the unusual terrain issues a lot of places, and that works.
Exactly.
So I just wanted, we like safety, but we like to have a balance, and I think you're describing a balance. so.
Yeah, that's why I kind of put it in position. I got rid of the city standards so that basically they just run it by me. And if I can justify saying, yeah, no problem, go ahead, then I'll do that. But if it's something that they don't realize that they're going to create a surcharge, then I can say, you know what, this is bigger than you think it is. Let's do it the right way. Let's get an engineer to design it for you.
I don't know if our understanding is the best thing, or maybe you could put under 3 feet with a surcharge, or however you want to do it. I'm good with your explanation.
Yeah,
If you can define it better, it might be helpful.
For me, it was just more if it depends on the structural element. If there's a structural element to it, then it requires an engineer. Yeah.
Okay. I may not have caught everything here, but I wonder, do we have ADU fees, or does that just fit in?
ADU fees, based on the state requirements, ADUs are considered new residences, same as a residence, R3.
So, okay, how do we do it? We add on ADU. That's what if somebody changes some room shapes, puts a door on the outside, seals off another door, and now we have an ADU within the structure?
So that's not an ADU, that's called a JADU, a junior ADU. So it's a terminology thing, but if you're not changing the footprint, it's not an actual ADU. ADU is actually with the new construction that actually adds a footprint or a structural element to it, falls under the, he doesn't have it up there, it falls under the valuation process. It's based on square footage.
Okay. Not that we have all our information in the fee schedule, it's not like a code, it's a fee schedule, not a code, right? But it's helpful if someone has an ADU that maybe they can be referred to, it's not the data, it's the narrative.
The simple explanation of what he was saying is we have base fees that are based on simple things like, the solars and the water heaters and stuff. But any new construction, new development, where you're creating a brand new thing, and you're creating a brand new footprint on your property, whether it's a foundation or it's a house or it's an ADU or an addition onto the existing house or on top of your garage, an ADU or something like that, where you're adding structural elements, then there's a square footage valuation.
Okay, opening the door, closing the door, not such a big deal.
Yep.
I got a question on BL 63, dock license fee renewal. How are we?
So we've been asked to create a dock ordinance, and that's something we've been working on for a few months. We just kind of threw that in there for now so that we'd have something in place. Once we get that ordinance worked out and we're ready to, we'll have something that we can work with already there.
I think I check my notes. I have a handful of them. Looks like my white. My highlighter drifted to other pages.
Highlighter you're using?
There you go.
You're turning right when you mean to turn left. Any other questions?
I just kind of want to touch, we had a great conversation in the Finance and Planning Committee meeting about special event permits and the different tiers that we're looking at. We had a good meeting at coffee this morning talking about the special event permits and the tiers and what is actually required and the potential for making this online and easier. As it stands right now, it looks like what is recommended is the 50 to 299 special event permit. The cost would be going down. I mean, that's the basic and probably the most often requested permit. Is that right?
Yeah, the most common that we have here in the community.
Okay, so that's definitely a benefit for our residents. And then as city staff is utilized or county staff is requested, that's when the cost goes up because there's a longer review time to get it to those people who have to have determinations that come back. And then, can you explain that a little bit more too?
Yeah, so there are different elements that create time, and it's really cost recovery for the time invested. Based on the department that's involved. If you notice, some of those fees say additional fees may apply also. Those are based on, like, if the chief were to run into something where it's going to take a little more time because of the elaborate program they're going to put up, or like the car show is always such a big deal, and there's so much going on. A lot of electrical temporary power is going on, a lot of temporary structures are up, a lot of porta potties are brought in, and stuff like that. Parking, fire avenue, rows and stuff, all that takes time, and it takes cost recovery from the chief. So that'd be a good example where additional fees may apply. But the key points to the tiers is what I think what you were asking about is if you add power to an element, now that takes an extra inspection. If you add if it turns into a public event rather than a private event. Now ADA compliance comes into play. Restroom compliance comes into play. Additional things come into play based on the type of event that you're having and how many hours or how much time it actually takes staff to invest to make it safe for you.
Okay, and the recommendations that we're seeing are based on your experience in working here in other cities. Is this industry standard? Are we becoming standardized as a city?
We are. This is not uncommon. This is, most cities that I've worked in, matter of fact, this is the only city, we're kind of catching up here. So it's a very common thing, and we're actually, the costs here are still way below.
Ridiculously, is that what you're?
I'm trying to think of the right word. It's way
Ridiculously
below.
low, right.
Way below what I usually see, yeah.
Okay. And that also, and I bring up some of these questions because we've had some good feedback from a lot of the POA sanctioned clubs about how the costs impact them. But obviously our big goal is public safety and making sure that there's not issues that we would be then responsible for and protecting the members of the public. Because this is kind of an insurance for the group to say that everything is the way it should be, right? Based on your review of this, these fees look appropriate, but also low.
They do. They look up, actually, they look low. If you notice on the report, it shows the city's actually subsidizing a lot of these costs to keep it affordable for the applicants. Another thing that we had talked about in the meeting, and I wanted to bring it up, is the importance of why we're doing this, because I understand the community and the culture here. They really try to protect their lifestyle and the way that they've always lived, and I value that too. What a great community this has been for such a long time. But the truth is, a lot of that has been at the expense of safety. And where people just didn't think of things, they just didn't, they were more concerned about having fun or putting on a good event or whatever. As we come into the 21st century, and a lot of things are changing, a lot of new fees are coming, but a lot of new requirements are coming. The intent all along, and I want everybody to hear this, it's really important that you understand that we're not trying to be government overreach. That's not the intent here. We want to make you safe. We want to keep you safe, and that's the whole intent, 100%.
Okay.
I want to say thank you for the conversation that we had on that very subject. We brought up some good points in regards to what the fees look like, what they have in the past. I think something that needs to be mentioned as well is the timing mechanism, because I believe it's 28 days before the event takes place that you need to pull that permit to get going. In other cities, is it 90? Is that correct?
Well, I believe somebody said it's over 120
I think
in
the chief
Elsinore.
made that comment in
Yeah.
Lake Elsinore that 120, I think what it was said.
Yeah.
Is that right, chief? We just got to stick a mic on you at all times.
Mr. Mayor, we did some research. We looked at the application process for the city of Lake Elsinore on their website. They have a 60-day minimum requirement for a special event permit. They have a $200 cost for it, and they have a down payment of
$1,000.
$1,000 that they have to put down on as part of that application process.
Yeah, and I think, understanding that information when we look at the fees that we're applying for to put on events is so crucial, because Canyon Lake is really, in my opinion, doing all we possibly can to go around the applicant to help them through the process. And I know there's been some kickback on timing in regards to I got this event in 2 weeks, I had no idea. And it's thankful that you're doing it in Canyon Lake, because if you're somewhere else, you would be in a really different spot with timing. So I want to make that point too, and thank you for bringing that up, and thank you, Chief, as well. As we're making decisions here in Canyon Lake, it's hard for other community members to understand why some of those decisions are being made. Case in point with the 28-day clause that we have here, and it's not because Canyon Lake is slow to perform, it's because we're relying on the county, that's correct, and we're relying on health department and these other entities to make sure that these events are being safe, so our residents don't have to worry about a fire issue. So I appreciate that conversation that we were able to have, and I'm excited to report that that fee's been reduced. I think that is going to help, but more importantly, the conversation that we had, I know the city manager is going to be working at finding a creative solution on maybe streamlining that process. I know he's going to work with you on that, so we're excited that we could even maybe see a reduction even more if we can put that thing on autopilot more so. And in my mind, that's good governing right there. That's working for the people to make it easy for them and not make this a burden, and then you get the support of the city if something does go south. And I think that's what's more crucial when we're looking at this. The bigger thing too I want to mention, and we haven't talked about this yet, but correct me on the numbers, but it looks like we're getting an 80% reduction when it comes to the business license fee. Is that right? It's pretty substantial.
Gosh, that's not my purview. I apologize. I can't
Who's going to answer that? Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so for the initial application for business license, we're looking at a $6 reduction on the initial, but on the renewal, it's going down from $125 to $39.
So that's substantial. So I know the Chambers of Commerce is now jumping for joy for this one, because that's huge. And I do believe that's the hard work of the staff, because that's something that the Chambers indicated to us very loud and clear, and we've taken notes of that, and that's something that's exciting to report. I know that that's great news for us all here, especially because we are such a business-friendly council, and I think that's gonna go over really well with the Chamber. Any other comments or questions?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Can you give an example? I know we added a bunch of different proposed fees for fire, but also adding a code enforcement fee. What would be a reason would be attached to a specific code enforcement, or on the fire side, the battalion chief or the chief fee on top of, what would be an example of when that would be charged?
So I'll probably throw it for very specific examples, because my background's finance. But as far as fees themselves, the reason to have position-based rates within your fee schedule so that you can have a mechanism to charge for services that don't conform to fees that you have on the books. And so that way you still have that transparency, say, all right, well, this is not conforming to any fee that we currently have, so this is how this would be charged, right? But as far as specific examples?
Yes, Chief, please.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I recall a meeting probably about a year ago with the captain where the discussion was DUI reimbursement. And in the fire fee schedule now, we have a line item where we could, actual cost, seek reimbursement or restitution for our response for a DUI accident. And so that would be the actual hourly rate of the employee for the time that they were out there and for the fire engine out there. That reimbursement for those specific positions could also be used for criminal activity where you try to seek restitution, such as an arson, for something like that. The hourly rate, the fully funded hourly rate, is how the fees are based off of.
Yeah.
So you need to know that fully funded hourly rate for each position to determine your baseline fees.
Mayor, I can also speak to the code enforcement one and how it's useful to my department. When we pursue code enforcement cases, one of the things that we look for is full cost recovery for the cost of all of our enforcement staff. Having a city council adopted fee makes the calculation of that and the justification to the court when we're asking for reimbursement much easier when we can just point to a city council resolution with an adopted rate.
Right. I think we've actually have had that question brought to us multiple times when we're looking at a case and we're like, wait a minute, how do we analyze them going and boarding it up, putting, tape around it, and this solves that.
It does. So it required a significant amount of manual arithmetic, counting and arithmetic to find out what is our cost recovery for this case. At this point, we can just say, look, here are the employees, here are the hours they spent, that's the total, and we can get these done much faster.
Any other questions?
One more question. On this fee schedule, there's a rental self-certification. Excuse me, fee schedules, there's a annual self-certification inspection. I don't remember us having that. Is that going to be new, or? So someone can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me go to that page real quick. It's right there in the beginning. Yeah, so that is, and so there's 3 under that section that are, all 3 of them are new. So you have the initial inspection, the annual in-person inspection, and then the self-certification inspection. So all 3 of those are new fees that are being proposed.
Yeah, just to clarify, they're new from the last time we had a fee study, a fee analysis. We have been charging inspection fees as part of that program. The city clerk handles that program, so I'll have her touch on that.
Yes, so part of that program, residential rentals have to get a business license, and they also have to pay for the inspection. So the first initial inspection, code enforcement comes out,
Sure.
they do the inspection. That fee is $79 is what's
Right.
being proposed. And then after that first year, then they can do self-certification, which would be $79 if they're doing the in-person inspection, or if they're doing it themselves, it would be $53.
And that goes, they can do it for year after year, there's no limits?
Correct.
Okay.
So they do the physical inspection, and then so long as there's no complaints or open code cases against them,
Correct.
they can self-certify going forward.
And, you know, this is a game changer in the regards that for the landlord that maybe has, I'll say, a delicate relationship with their tenants, they can allow for code enforcement to take that on. Or they have a working relationship with their tenants, so they can get pictures of certain things like propane tanks and electrical and windows and whatnot. So I'm glad to see that that particular fee is being reduced, because it just makes sense, because it's simply paperwork and email exchanges that are happening. So any other questions before we go into testimony by proponents? And you'll get a chance to have discussion too if you want to
Did you
dig
want
in.
to talk about fire?
You know, in regards to EMS, I am actually going to pull it out by itself, so we
Okay.
can't have a discussion specifically on that, just because we have a lot to report on it. So for those of you that have questions on that rate increase, we will be discussing it by itself.
One other thing, and this might not be the right time, but I have a couple questions about if we approve this, can it be changed off-cycle? Is that kind of next step?
I can answer that one. Absolutely. The city council is capable of reviewing its fees at any time. We have a regular cycle just so that we're keeping them updated.
That's good.
And defensible. But we do routinely, as new services, new programs are adopted, we adopt fees for that specific program. If we come across a fee that, for whatever reason, we have a major change in how the city operates, we become significantly more efficient, there's nothing preventing the council from reducing that fee, and it's something that occasionally happens, especially with this city.
Because I can see that, I could see that potentially happening specifically with the Animal Friends of the Valley.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the changes that they're trying to make.
Right.
That it doesn't really affect us now, but it could. Okay.
I like that approach as well, because, you know, we might put these fees out there and get feedback from community members on the process, and they're a little concerned on why it cost what it did, because this is all that was taking place, or, you know, that we need to adjust it, or we might find out that we're using more man hours than we thought because it's a new program, and it's just, cost recovery's not there. So I think that's a great question to know that moving forward, we can reassess and readjust if we need to.
Yes, and just so you know, it's an issue that came up in another jurisdiction that I advise. They adopted one of their fire inspection fees. They adopted, and they started charging it, and they found out that, whoa, this, you know, the amount of time it's taking us to actually do those inspections doesn't compute to the
Got
fee.
it.
So they brought it back to the council to get it reduced. It's not a big deal.
That's good.
What, you talked about a CPI built in, what's the standard for that, or where's the basis for that?
Right, so what I'd say is what would be the most accurate is what's based off of your driver for cost, which is typically like an MOU or kind of your staff costs, right? But the most recognized and often used is CPI because it's a general standard. So
Right.
if you recognize the cost of living increase, then that also tends to correspond a bit with wage increases at the same time. Definitely not lately, but still, that's the most often used, and so that's why it's recommended. But there's other things like a GDP price deflator, but I mentioned if you have very specific MOUs where you know that all wages are going up by 3%, then that would be a good mark to use as well.
So if we had a new budget the next year, we could just take the basic cost of the labor and just fold that in as our cost adjustment? Or do we need to choose like the labor cost, the cost of labor, or the CPI, or?
No, so because of these fees, any increases need to be adopted, right? It's not, they don't typically go through as an adjustment. You can use that sort of thing as a measure of increase in cost, because it is a measure of, it is an increase in cost that you're experiencing. So if you have, this is the average change in salaries and benefits in the city, or for specific departments, say this department's fees need to go up by 4% because their salaries and benefits went up by that mark, then that would also be a good one to use as well.
Okay, Terry, you got that? Okay.
Perfect. Any other questions before we move?
And just to clarify, what staff is recommending is annual adjustments at CPI with a cap of not to exceed 3%
Perfect.
in any given year.
Perfect. That protects us. Any other questions? All right, we're moving on to testimony by proponents. Seeing none, going once, going twice, nope, okey dokey. Testimony by opponents. Nope. Response by proponents. Nope. Public hearing is closed, and the time is 7:55. All right, let's go into a discussion. Now you can just go nuts, whatever, I know, I figured. So for me, just simply put, I think I'm excited to see when I look at building that we're reducing our fees, 59 fees are being decreased. I'm excited to also, see through this analysis, and thank you so much. This is phenomenal work, by the way. I appreciate that we're looking at other cities as well so that we're compliant, and it's just not such a huge disconnect. That's really important that I've saw through this report, so I appreciate the detail on this. I'm really excited that this council has pushed hard to listen to the community when it came to business fees. I think that's important. The chamber is going to be appreciative on that. But more importantly, when it looks at community events, that's going to be huge. And I think we still need to work on that a little bit. I think we can reduce it more, in my opinion. I'm hoping staff can bring us something back. I'm willing to accept it because it is a reduction. I think we're taking off $20 on that, which is going to be, which is great. I think there's probably still some more room if we can streamline that process. But overall, I'm extremely excited about the work that was done on this, and it was a very detailed, a lot of reading, but it was a good job on this. I appreciate it. Does anyone else have any discussion on it?
None on that portion.
Okay. I know we all want to talk about fire and EMS, so okay. This is what I'm going to propose. So our Madam Clerk has, I got to do action by City Council, but our Madam Clerk has indicated to me that we got CEQA on us, and that's correct. So we're going to have a new form of how we do these public hearing notices. I have to say this entire long spiel, so bear with me before we can actually do the job that's before us. So I am going to need a motion in a second to adopt the California Environmental Quality Act CEQA finding that proposed comprehensive citywide user fee and rate study adjustment user fee, bear with me, we're only halfway there, at the recommendation rate set forth therein and exempts pursuant to section 15273 of CEQA guidelines and sections 21080BA8 of the Public Resource Code. I need a roll call on that. Did I do it right?
And maybe I could ask the city attorney just to say a quick word on why we're doing this now and what this all means.
But did I do it right?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would like to apologize to the mayor for having to place the CEQA findings separately on the agenda and having to approve them separately. The Court of Appeal for the State of California has decided that under the Brown Act, whenever we are making a CEQA determination, it now has to be a separate item on our agendas. I will certainly work with the clerk to find a way to streamline the reading of that action in the future.
Maybe we just hit a button and it's like a voice that says it.
Right.
Okay, so with that, I do need a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-63, and here's the exception that I'm going to make to the council.
So if we can get a motion and second first
I'm
to
sorry.
adopt the exemption.
We need a motion and a second to adopt that long spiel that I just gave. I need a motion and a second just for that.
Make a motion.
Second.
I need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt the exemption.
That's going to be annoying. All right. Now, I need a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2022-63, and here's the exemption that I'm going to make of EMS fees and the residential rental fees.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, your motion is to adopt resolution 2022-63, including all of the fees that are included in the study.
With the exception.
Minus the
Yep.
EMS subscription fees, and what was the other, I'm sorry?
And the residential rental fees.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to pull those two separate fees out, but we're going to adopt all the other fees. I do need a motion and a second.
I would just like a subsidiary motion, and basically
Yeah.
says that the
Robert rules.
typos that we were addressed will be corrected in the motion. And that's my subsidiary motion. And That's it.
Since no one's made the motion, the substitute motion isn't on the floor, so I still need a motion to move forward, and then we can substitute all day long.
Okay.
So I still need a motion to accept my proposal to adopt Resolution 2022-63 with the exception of EMS fees and the residential rental fees, and I will put in there that we will make the edits and corrected that we need on the numbers for what Council Member Mayor Pro Tem Welty just indicated.
Make a motion.
Perfect.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry? Mayor Pro Tem Welty? Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I appreciate my colleagues for allowing me to take up EMS on its own. I think it's important. I think it's relevant. I think we all have questions. Does anyone want to start off?
You want me to start?
You want to start?
Do you want me to start?
Just ask some questions, kind of get the ball rolling on this. This is really important to the community, so I think this is, I'm glad we're doing it this way. We're being as transparent as we possibly can.
Okay, so I have notes on this, actually. Let me pull them up. So in looking at the two fees, it appears that the first responder fee is the, if you are not subscribed fee. So you opt out, you have response to your house. It's not for ambulance, it's for emergency medical services. Currently, that's $14.83 per call.
Correct.
The full cost recovery that is suggested would be decreased to $13.56. So I think the people who are opted out would probably be happy to have a $100 break. The annual subscription fee, which is per parcel, also includes essentially unlimited medical responses. It does not have an issue with the number of individuals who are in the household, as long as they live in the household, or guests, where you added that last year, right? Where we now include guests of the residents. So what was $192, this suggested increase, it's approximately 28%, right? So an increase of about 52
$54 to $52, yep.
50 something dollars a year, which I have some heartburn over because obviously we don't want to penalize anyone for being a subscriber. I mean, that seems counterproductive and actually counter to the intent of the program, right?
Correct.
We want people to opt in and have the ability to have the services as needed, as many times as needed. My parents live at my house. I have a lot of stairs. I have kids. There's a lot of reasons why I want to be able to call as many times as I need to in a given year and not get bills that equate to $1,300 plus. So I see the benefit in that. Basically, per month cost is a Starbucks grande latte of about $4.50, right? So that's how I rationalize things when I pay for them, but maybe people don't like Starbucks and they don't want to spend the cup of a coffee increase per month. And I get that too, when everything else is increasing and increasing and increasing, and it's just one more cost. I get that it's an administrative fee. I get that there's, a lot of built-ins that go with it. I also know that we have costs on the horizon that are potentials that make me weary of accepting a fee in the realm of $52 a month when we may have more expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm talking about is the fire department, fire station.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where my mind is at.
So yeah, for me it's difficult on many levels. So I'm going to do the best I can to iterate the importance of why this is a standalone conversation. The first is you nailed it. We just got done giving the state of the city, and we just got done telling the community that we're running a $400,000 surplus, and we're asking for more money. And that doesn't sit well with me. At the same token, we ask our chief to bring us a budget that was so undervalued of what is currently being done here in the community with what the service we're providing, and he honored that and he brought that to us. So I understand why this increase is there. The issue that we're really being dealt with is we just got news just last week that the POA is looking at the fire station as an opportunity to charge us a lease, and that's going to be a very substantial number. So with looking at that alone, we can't accept this fee because it's not even accurate with what could be coming our way. The good news for us is I believe we can kick this back to the city manager because today was a phenomenal day in regards to the conversation of the fire station, because I think the POA and the city are going to work together on resolving a permanent solution to make the fire station maximize every effort it possibly can. And I'm very thankful for that. But we still have to make decisions based upon what is brought in front of us. And right now, because of unexpected fees that could be coming, we cannot, in my opinion, adopt this fee right now because it might not be accurate with what's going to be happening in the future. So for me, it's important that we talk about this by itself. And I really do want everyone's input on where they stand with EMS. I think it's fair to note that this program has, I believe, a 94% engagement.
Right about 90% participation.
90% participation, and that number's actually increased from years past.
That's correct.
And so that's been really good news, in our front too, and the communication has been great at City Hall. But I really want my colleagues to express interest in this and get their opinion on how they feel about EMS, where it stands, where they're proposing it be headed, and obviously with the information about the possibility of having to pay a substantial lease to the POA that's still out there, what to do with this. So, Mayor Pro Tem?
I love the basic EMS program. It provides a level of service to our community. It's a safety issue, and it provides funds to offset the actual cost of that. So that to me, that's a great thing. It appears to me that we're going to head into this unpredictably period of what it's going to cost us.
Right.
And with any luck, that this unpredictably period won't go on forever, and we hopefully can get resolved quickly. And I'd like to make that attempt to get it resolved before we lock down this fee. I think guessing at that level is, to me, not the best thing to do.
I agree.
Well, and this proposal was.
Microphone.
This proposal was without the lease.
Correct. And that
Yeah.
and that's it's fair to note. But I will report that conversations that take place today, I do believe it's going to be an exciting time for Canyon Lake. I do believe that for the city and the POA. I believe bread is going to be broke, and I think it's going to be a really good thing that the POA is going to work on, the city is going to work on, and I think it's going to resolve this. And we might be looking at this fee as a reduction. Who knows? Or we might be looking at it as this isn't enough, or the status quo is good. But I think it's our duty as elected officials in this community to be transparent with community members and what we're being dealt with. And so we're not just making decisions just because we think it's in our best interest to balance the books. These are legitimate reasons on why we have to make these decisions. So I know for me it's very simple. I'm thankful that I found out this morning that we don't have to accept this fee tonight. We get to push it out to March, which gives us time to give notice to the community on what that fee is going to be, whether it's going to be the status quo or the proposed $5.60 increase that they're asking for, or a reduction. $4. I'm sorry, $4. I'm sorry, the latte, I forgot. I thought inflation got the latte too. $4.68. So we still get the opportunity to allow the city manager to do some due diligence. I know that we're going to be meeting with the POA in regards to the fire station, in regards to that lease. So I think there's still some movement there, and there's some time. Does anyone else have any comments on it?
I totally agree with you. I think that it's very important that we resolve this issue with the fire station. I think it's a huge issue. Our fire department is not only very, very important to our community, but they're highly regarded. And we need to secure that house so that they can do their day-to-day operations, and the community can feel good that we are doing everything we can for our fire department. So I totally agree with you, Mr. Mayor. We need to resolve this issue, sit down with them, and hopefully come up with a solution that benefits not only the fire department, but in the end, benefits our community and our
Absolutely.
residents.
Absolutely. Any other comments on this? So I have a proposed motion on it. It's essentially to continue the EMS fee to future council meetings and determined by the city manager to bring it back to us at a proper time, because I know we have to give notice to the community on this. So I'm simply asking my colleagues if they'll honor me in that motion, and just pushing out EMS to a future council meeting that's determined by our city manager.
And just for clarification, that means that we're going to keep the subscription at status quo, but we're also not going to do the recommended decrease that the company recommended, because we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't have to take action on this
It's
until.
just EMS.
It's just, yeah, and this is just, we're tabling this until a further date, because we're not required to move on this tonight. And we can table this back until as late as March, I believe, is the deadline that I was
That's
given.
correct.
Okay. And it becomes into effect in June.
July 1st.
July 1st, I'm sorry.
To briefly answer Councilmember Castillo's point, the first responder fee is also dependent upon the operational costs of the fire department, which would include this potential lease cost that's being added.
So it may not be.
So that one may not be accurate either.
Yes.
That's why it
So
needs to be continued.
Is your motion then to both those fees, the first responder plus EMS, to stay where they're at?
The status quo.
Okay.
And we readdress it at a later time.
Need a motion to table this?
I need a motion to move EMS fees to a future council meeting.
Yeah, I think that it would be to continue the discussion of the EMS fees until the city manager can bring it back to the council. And just so you know, that will have to be March at the latest.
Yep.
Okay. So, go ahead, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Need a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mayor Pro Tem, are you ready for a curveball? All right, so now we have the residential rental fees up for discussion. That's the second one that we put out. I'll be recusing myself due to a business interest in the residential rental. So, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, the meeting is now yours.
Okay, do we have a?
And just to clarify, that business interest, Mayor, that's because you own rental property.
This is correct.
Okay.
Do you have a script for that? Okay. Excuse me a second, I've got to get my computer open back up.
Mayor Pro Tem, if you wouldn't mind announcing the time that Mayor Smith left the dais?
Mayor Smith left the dais at 8:12.
Okay, thank you. And so up for discussion now is the residential rental fees. So if the council would like to have discussion or?
Yeah, let me just, so the mayor had pulled this for separate discussion for the sole purpose of being able to recuse himself on this vote and any discussion that may happen. So there may not be any discussion if you're ready to make a motion and adopt, or you certainly can have discussion if you have questions or thoughts.
What page is that rental fee?
So if you look at your council agenda, it would be page 136. Specifically, that highlights the residential rental inspection fees. I think that's what was in question.
Dang it. This was the decrease, correct?
It is.
Okay.
It is actually not a decrease.
Was it I'm sorry, I was looking at two different ones. There was the initial. Where were they?
Yeah, so the residential rental program has two parts to the program. The first part is a business license has to be obtained.
Okay.
The business license, for anybody who is renewing a business license, that's the fee that decreased significantly. I believe it was $87 that it decreased. So for a renewal, you'll see the decrease there. As far as the residential rental inspections, these are new fees to this fee study. However, we've been charging them because the program has been in place. It just wasn't in place when we did our last fee study.
And then it had the decrease for the self-inspection.
So not quite, and so just for the record, the initial, what we're currently charging now is $71. It's proposed to go to $79, and the self-certification, the annual self-certification inspection, we're currently charging $36, and that's being proposed to go to $53. So it's not quite a decrease on the inspection side of it. It's the decrease is more so on the business license side.
But I would say, council member, that overall, if you're engaged in this operation, you're saving about, what is it, like $60 on the annual business license itself, and you're
Yeah.
paying maybe like $20 more on the inspection. So net, you're going to be paying less every year.
Correct.
So there will be a reduction. That's, as you say, it's on the fee administration, it's 10, 10.1, 10.2, 10.3.
Correct.
And you've identified, again, the initial inspection is going to go to $79, the annual in-person is $79, and the annual self-certification will go to $53. Subsidies, minor, 1% range. So I think that's helpful. I think we've reduced some fees and made it cheaper to operate in our town, which I think is wonderful. It looks like our cost recovery is very, very close to break even, within $1. So I see, I'm good with this. Any other comments? No more comments? Do we have a motion to accept these fees?
I will make the motion. Is there a specific language you need?
Just a motion and a second to adopt the residential rental fees.
Second.
Need a roll call vote?
Thank you. Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Motion carried with Mayor Smith abstaining.
Should we bring the mayor back in?
Yeah.
Or should we just leave him out there? It is now 8:16. The mayor's returning to the dais.
We put you to work right away.
Sorry, I was at PCA. Thank you. Good job. Okay.
All right, so the initial proposal that I submitted to the city manager had like a year's deadline, and he cut it to 6 months, and all the 4 people that responded was like, are you serious with this timeline? And so I really want to thank Wildan and the staff for making this done. The last one took 18 months, so this is 6 months, so.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we good? Number 5, good to go?
We're good.
All right, moving on to 6. This is, all right, Resolution 2022-64. I believe this one's going to be to the chief. Yep.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City Staff, Jeff Lieutenant Sheriff, Fire Chief. I will try to be quick and brief with this presentation. In, 2019, the state of California made a change that required the fire department to report to their jurisdictional authority the status of inspections on 3 types of businesses. Those businesses include residential properties that are condominiums, residential properties that are hotels, motels, apartment buildings, daycare facilities. And so that change in the law came as a result of the Ghost Fire in 2016 in Oakland. And during that fire, 36 people were killed when a warehouse had been converted into a livable space, and this artist livable space held a concert there, and a fire started. And the city had been involved with trying to get corrections of some noted violations, but the city council, or the members, did not know what was going on. So that's where this law came from. Last year, when CAL FIRE came and made their presentation, they reported on 6 properties. Since our fire department began on January 1st, and with our area familiarization, we've been hitting the community hard and learning the different properties that are out there, and we have found 3 additional properties in our mind that meet the requirements of this new state law. So I'm here tonight to report, and the last page of your document is a memo from me through the city manager to the city council reporting the status of the inspection. So we have a total of 9 occupancies that require inspection. We inspected all 9 of those. The schools have complied 100%. The hotels have complied 100%. We have 7 apartments that have completely complied, or condos that have complied, and we're working through some items that had been noted in the corrections. Some of these facilities had never been inspected before.
Yeah.
So we're working with them to go through and update their fire protection systems. They have sprinkler systems. There's some fire lane issues out there. We've been in contact with the different property owners. We can assure you that the inspections have been initiated. However, working through them and giving them a timeline because of some of them just being identified the first time, it's going to take a little bit longer. So it's staff recommendation that you adopt Resolution 2022-64, acknowledging receipt of the report made by the Fire Chief of the Canyon Lake Fire Department regarding compliance with the annual inspection of certain occupancies pursuant to Section 13146.2 and 13146.3 of the California Health and Safety Code. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thorough report, Chief. I appreciate it. Any questions for the Chief?
No.
Madam Clerk, do we have any comment cards from the public?
No comments.
Awesome. I need a motion and a second.
Motion?
I need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving right along, number 7, this is committee assignments. All right, this is the 2023 committee and agency assignments. The presentation is going to be made by our city clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 7 is our annual reassignment of committees. Before we start, I'd just like to state that a Form 806 was posted to the city's website and on the bulletin board outside so that we may proceed with action tonight. Mayor Smith has already given me his recommendations for committee assignments, so I'm going to go ahead and go down the list, let you know who he is recommending, and if there are no objections, we'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the committee assignments. Okay, we'll start with the City of Canyon Lake Standing Committees, which would be our Finance and Planning Committee. He's recommending Chair Councilmember Castillo and the member Councilmember Dane. Ad hoc committees, we have our Veterans Day Committee, Scholarship Committee, Spirit of Canyon Lake Award Committee, and our 9/11 Event Committee. We have Councilmember Castillo and Councilmember Dane on all committees. Our Canyon Lake Emergency Preparedness Committee, we have Mayor Smith and Mayor Pro Tem Welty. On LEJWA, we have Mayor Pro Tem Welty and as the delegate, and we have Councilmember Castillo as the alternate.
Does that work?
Move I-15 through Temecula Valley Task Force. We have Mayor Smith as the committee member, and we have Councilmember Terry as also a committee member. We have our Public Entity Risk Management Authority, PERMA. We have our member as our city manager, and our alternate as our Administrative Services Director, Mike Borja. RCA, we have Councilmember Dane, and then we have our alternate as Mayor Pro Tem Welty. RCTC, our commissioner would be Mayor Smith. Commissioner alternate would be Councilmember Dane. RTA, director would be Mayor Smith. Alternate director would be Mayor Pro Tem Welty.
Just for a point of clarification, Councilwoman Dane, the reason why alternate for RCTC is because RCA is now RCTC and RCTC is now RCA. Just so you know.
We have listed on this committee agency assignments the SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments Transportation Committee. That is not a committee that we make an appointment to. However, our mayor has been appointed by the president, I believe, of SCAG, so it's listed on here. We have the SCFA Executive Management Committee. We have Corey Gorham, our management analyst. We have our SCFA Animal Friends JPA. We have our board member as Councilmember Dane. Alternate board member would be Councilmember Terry. Northwest Mosquito and Vector Control District, our trustee would be Mayor Pro Tem Welty. Alternate would be Mayor Smith. WRCOG, our executive committee member would be Councilmember Terry. And our alternate would be Mayor Pro Tem Welty. And last but not least, we have our WRCOG Technical Advisory Committee. Our committee member would be our city manager. That is what I have as recommendations from our mayor. If the council is okay with these recommendations, then we'll need a motion and second to approve the 2023 committee assignments as discussed.
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Perfect.
Yay.
That's got to be the
I love
fastest,
my
right?
committees. I love them.
That's got to be, that's got to be the fastest way to do it. Okay. Just trying to be efficient up here. City manager comments.
I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas.
No.
That's it?
What has gotten into you? I love that. All right, moving on to Russian roulette. I'm going to remind the council, no, I'm not, because you know the 3-minute thing. There's some of us that aren't here anymore, so we don't have those issues. I'm going to go right in order. I know, I'm feeling jolly. I mean, Chris just did a 3-second spiel, so Councilwoman Castillo, you're up.
Thank you to everyone for coming tonight. Thank you for the good discussion. Felt like it was needed. I'm very excited to continue on the committees that I've been on for the last couple of years. I feel like there's no stopping the city clerk, Councilmember Dane, and I on some of these things. And I'm very proud of the things that we've been able to do. I mean, look at that beautiful bell over there. There's just a lot that I'm very proud of, and I want to keep going. I'm excited to see this rejuvenation of the Emergency Preparedness Committee. That made my heart happy.
Absolutely.
So that's good stuff. Your daughters were adorable during the pledge. That made my night.
Thank you.
And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. And we are lucky to have the best staff on the planet. So, yay.
Councilmember Dane.
I'm usually the fastest one. I just want to say how much I appreciate this opportunity. I really appreciate being able to serve the city of Canyon Lake and to be working with all of you. Excited that we've completed almost our first year with our fire department.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
Way to go, Chief.
And want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
I love it. Councilmember Terry.
Would like to congratulate all of you on
No, you were right. It's the other way, and then you got to get it closer. Yeah, old technology, budget cuts.
still new.
I look forward to serving on the Western Riverside Council of Governments. Thank you very much. I would like to
Thank our entire staff for all that you do throughout the year. I heard it once and I believe it. We're only as good as our staff, and I think we have an excellent staff, very responsive. Anytime I walk in there, they kind of, but then they're, always so very, very helpful. And I thank you so much for all the time that you spend with us. Lastly, I would like to wish the residents of Canyon Lake a Merry, Merry Christmas. I hope you have a blessed Christmas. That goes out to our chief, our police department, and once again, it's a great honor to serve on this council.
Councilmember Welty, or Mayor Pro Tem Welty.
Well, thank you for that. Just where I went this month, we had our WRCOG kind of a planning meeting or a future plan direction meeting. It was very excellent. We had a new director appointed last year. He came in and he had to sort through all the buckets and kind of get all the ducks in a row. And we had a chance to take a deep breath now and kind of go, now that we have, a fairly decent organization, let's talk about where we want to go. It was a very good discussion, and I think you'll enjoy that. That'll be a nice experience for you. So Kurt's a great guy. Staff's great. It's just wonderful.
Big shoes to fill.
Okay, thank you. Just a comment about Leisure. I usually don't say much about them, but I want to talk about dredging the lake a little bit. I was on a committee that looked into lake dredging, and we went through the process and we did some research. And what initially, in my mind, was that the information that we were working on was not as dire as what we thought it was going to be. There was projections in the future that we were working on from other people, and we went out and went around and take a look at the heights of the soil, and it was not deteriorating at the rate we expected. So that's the good news. So the point is, we came in and we really didn't have the data to go in and go argue for any dredging. I went to a grant package where Ledgeo applied for a grant for the dredging, and basically I think in our group we came in like last place as far as the competitive for the money. So that's all kind of bad news. I mean, the good news is the lake's not deteriorating. That was early predicted by other people. The bad news, of course, we didn't get the money. But the second piece of the good news is that Ledgeo, the technical committees decided they want to invest a little money and do another sonogram of the lake and find out exactly what the soil's doing. You can't do that every year because it changes all the time, but the better data we get as we move ahead to do dredging, the better chance we have of getting funding for it. And to be honest, my own mind is probably 10 or 15 years out before we get to that point, but at least now, instead of sitting in a room saying, let me tell you, I'm Dale Welty, and this is what I think, it's not really working out. What you have to have is the data to build up your story in order to say, hey, this is a worthwhile project. And we're moving on that path. It's going to be slow, but I don't think we're under a lot of pressure. To me, that's good news. Anyway, happy holidays. Take a deep breath and start the whole new year and go, hey, good to see the family, all those things, and kind of relive, build a new life for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. There's so much stuff that I could report on. I got like 7 or 8 pages here. If you want to know what's going on at RTA or SCAG or RCTC, come find me. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I want to say it is so exciting to see where the city's at from where it was before. It's really exciting to say that this council used to be full of Hawaiian shirts, shorts, and flip-flops, and now look at us. And I say that because, regionally, our perception has changed too, and it's nice to be able to build relationships with other cities, and we're being seen as a real city. We're updating the city, and it's exciting to do it with you all. I can't thank you enough for letting me serve as your mayor for 1 more year. I'm so excited, and I appreciate the residents for re-electing the 3 of us to continue the good work that we're trying to do. With that, I'm going to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and I'm going to adjourn the meeting. One announcement. Next meeting is going to be January 11th. Closed session 5 p.m. and of course open session at 6:30, and I'm officially going to adjourn the meeting at 8:32. That's a wrap. 2-hour meeting. Not bad for fees.